everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. All right, I've got an awesome show for you today. This is a three-parter. We are going to take a look at the top 5 record albums, from my perspective, to listen to while you work. We're also going to look at a recent vinyl haul that I had that was amazing. Picked up some new vinyl, which I don't do that often at all. Some great used vinyl, 9 records in total. We're going to look at them. I'm going to explain why I got them. I have been teasing this a little bit in recent lives and some posts in the community tab. So a couple of those records have been revealed, but I want to share the whole lot with you and we'll talk through that. I want to get your thoughts on that. And then finally, I got a game console. Not something I was expecting to do today, but I found a great deal. Couldn't pass it up. So we'll test that out and play a little game. You're not going to want to miss this.
Welcome to Record-ology.
So this past weekend, my wife says to me, she says, "How would you like to go shopping for records?" And I was like, say no more, I'm in. You know what I mean? You don't twist my arm. This is not a decision that I'm even going to have to think about. The answer is always yes. Okay? I don't need any records, but I love looking at records. Well, we ended up going to 2 or 3 different places, and it was a huge blessing because she went out of her way to make sure that not only did I get a couple of records, but got to really look and spend some time doing it, which was awesome. That was, the gift right there. So I picked up 9 albums. She picked out a couple. I picked out a couple. We collectively, came away with 9 albums. So I thought we would just take a look at them and, give you my thoughts on why this is something I would grab for, both new and used. Okay, so this is a Mystic Moods Orchestra. This is the Plays Night Tide album. And if you're unfamiliar with Mystic Moods, first of all, if you get it, you get it. And I know those people can, go take a quick bathroom break. They'll know already what I'm going to say. But essentially, the Mystic Moods Orchestra albums combine elemental ambient recording sounds like rainfall, storms, crickets, trains, in this case, the ocean, with really great background music in a very wide stereo image that makes for a fantastic sort of background audio track. And this kind of goes into what we're going to talk about a little bit later when we talk about the top 5 albums for working from home or from working and listening to music at the same time. This is one I didn't know existed. The number 1 album that they first came out with was called One Stormy Night. And then there was One Stormy Weekend, and then it just kind of went off for there. And for the next 10, 15 years, they made these in the 60s and 70s, and they're fantastic. There's many of them. Some of them feature scantily clad people, and this one thankfully does not. But it's a fantastic album. Also, when shopping for Mystic Moods albums, always look for, if you have a choice, always look for the Philips releases. They were also released on Warner Brothers, and my friend Fardamark and I did a little project where we did a little matrix stamp searching and found out that at least in the case of One Stormy Night, that the Warner Brothers pressing was a dub. So you want the original, issue, which would be the Philips. They sound a little brighter, a little sharper, all that good stuff. So that's the first one I picked up. The next one, don't roll your eye. But I got Monsters, Inc. This is cool. I love a picture disc. And yes, I play them. And I think they sound pretty dang good. In fact, we're going to be doing a show in the near future, a little sneak peek here, about do vinyl records that are not picture discs really sound better than picture disc versions. Essentially, you don't need to type in the comments. Essentially, what it comes down to is the groove on a picture disc is not as deep as a regular record groove. So therefore, it will not technically sound as high quality, but they're incredibly cool. This really plays into the whole tactile side of vinyl, which I absolutely love. Seeing something, handling something. You can instantly spot a new picture disc, by the way, if it's rimmed in black like this. Some of the Vogue remakes, you'll notice out there, will have that. So if you see black on the edge, that means for the most part, it is either a reissue in the case of Vogue's or it's just a new picture disc. There's another look. Really cool. And yes, we'll play it and we'll enjoy it and it'll sound good. It'll still be high fidelity, etc., etc. So This one is, if I have to, if I don't, the justification on this one isn't going to happen. Okay? It's just not going to happen. Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. This is the double album soundtrack to Episode 9, the final in the sequel trilogy. The most recent Star Wars, well, not really, because there's been other Star Wars stuff, but the most recent feature film of Star Wars featuring the music of John Williams. This is, in fact, the last collaboration of John Williams with the Star Wars franchise. He is bowing out with this being his last work. This is going to feature a lot of the music that we're familiar with, cues and themes, with a lot of new material as well, but all originating from the mind of the master. This just looks cool. And Star Wars albums can command a pretty, hefty penny. So seeing these at Barnes & Noble, by the way, these new albums were bought, I think all the new ones we're going to look at were bought at Barnes & Noble, and the used ones at Second and Charles. But these are like $23, 25, something like 26 maybe. It's a pretty good price for 180 gram vinyl double set. The back just has the track listings. It is a double disc issue, Lucasfilm, Walt Disney. By the way, if you have not been, and a lot of people can't, and I get that, totally get that. But if you have not been, but want to and can go to Galaxy's Edge, either in Disneyland or Disney World, and you're a Star Wars fan, even mildly so, then you are going to be blown away. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, just go on YouTube and search for Rise of the Resistance, which is one of the two main rides, and it'll blow your mind. And if you're really wealthy, you might be able to afford the $6,000 Halcyon cruise experience, where you board a Star Cruiser and you live in this world doing adventures, interacting with cast, truly in a Star Wars adventure for 2 days. But who's got $6,000 lying around? I don't know if I got $10 lying around. Okay, so the gatefold opens up to this amazing artwork. I mean, this is just, it's awesome. It's incredible. It just is what it is. So each one of the records comes in this black on one side paper sleeve, black on the other side paper sleeve. And let's look at the other side, same as well. And the actual albums are pressed, like I said, 180 gram vinyl on a very timeless, very cool looking. I hate when the paper's ripped like that. That's a brand new record, you guys. And the paper is ripped. That's annoying. That is annoying. Quality control on new vinyl, as we've talked about before, isn't what it used to be. Now these also come with another little treat, because there is a book inside here, and that book has some amazing things to look at. Artwork from the movies, not just this movie, but some of the others as well. Again, Star Wars fans love this stuff. And if you're not a Star Wars fan, this makes for some good orchestral music. Just awesome. Okay, the next album that I picked up was a soundtrack to My Fair Lady. I think I've got this at least on one other version, which is fine by me. I'd love to have a couple different versions of this. And initially, I think I picked it up looking at this side, not realizing that this was a secondary cover. Because I think I had seen this side and had passed on it. Just because I thought I might have it, I think is why I passed on it. But still, really cool to have. It's got the stereo 360 sound. This is going to be a Columbia Masterworks record. And these are fantastic. These are super high fidelity. And if you've never seen this movie, you're probably thinking to yourself, why would I want to see that movie? It's a great movie. It's a great movie. My grandpa loved this movie. It was his absolute favorite. My dad says this is my grandpa's favorite movie of all time. So that's a cool one to have. Plus, it is a gatefold record, surprisingly. We've got some cool images from the film. We got Rex Harrison. Just really, really cool. Obviously, Audrey Hepburn, who did not sing her music. This movie, here's a little Disney tie-in. So Julie Andrews was holding out for this movie to get this role, and not wanting to do Mary Poppins for Walt Disney because she was in the running for this. And obviously that didn't work out. But let's look at the record. If you ever come across these Columbia Masterworks, these are fantastic. They're fantastics too, I guess, but they're mostly fantastic. 360 sound, very stereo. They're just very spacious, luscious stereo. Let's just say that. If you get a 6i Masterworks album, those are even cooler looking, in my opinion. So yeah, this was $1.25, $1.25. This is something that, we talked the other day about records are too expensive to just buy to discover artists. But when they're used and the price is fair, $1.25, and you're kind of curious and you just want to see what that's like, that's an investment most people can make. Although I can tell you there have been times when coming up with 4 quarters for $1 used records back when they were $1 was hard to do. All right, the next record we are going to review is one that I also paid $1.25 for. You guys tell me if it was worth it. I'm trying to get the price tags off as I do this. Some of them come off smoothly. This one's ripping, which is awesome. That's okay. I think I can get that off a little better later. But this is Peggy Lee's 1963 album, I Am a Woman. I said the other day that Peggy Lee recorded something like 40 albums. So unlike Patsy Cline, who only recorded 104 songs in her life, on 3 albums during her lifetime and about another 3 afterwards, that's a much more attainable collection. I don't think I'll ever set out to do that, but music from around this period is really cool. There's the back. It's got a pretty misogynistic write-up on the back, which is annoying. On the live recently, we also talked about this album, which I picked up recently. I actually became a fan of Man of La Mancha in a weird way. So I was a fan of the show Quantum Leap, and I picked up the Quantum Leap soundtrack, which is out of print. And this is years and years ago. I've lost the CD since. And on there were 2 songs from here. One was Man of La Mancha, and the other one was Dulciana. And the music was fantastic. This album is just really eye-catching. I really like the yellow. It's on Cap Records. Tell me more about Cap. I understand that it's I think it's kind of a secondary label. I'm not 100% sure about that, but the record's in fine condition. But Cap Records to me is kind of a budget label. I'm not 100% sure. That being said, this is the original issue of the 1966 Broadway production of Man of La Mancha. Okay, next, probably the most controversial record that I purchased, and I don't want to get into the super controversial side of things. That conversation can exist, but I'm not going to engage. But this album for me was very influential. 1987, Michael Jackson's Bad, the third and final collaboration between Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones. And it's a fantastic album with a lot of diverse music. Apparently, I was reading that when mastering this album, the engineers were being taken out of the studio on stretchers because they were working in 3 and 4 day increments when, they would get a creative impulse that would, last for that much time. This pressing is beautiful. This is a 2018 picture disc release of the album. And yes, I am intending to and have already listened to this. It sounds super fresh, super high fidelity. It's a gorgeous recording. So I don't really buy into don't play your picture discs and they don't sound as good. I understand the grooves are shallower because they have to accommodate the paper picture underneath. Again, there's that black rim. But this was an album growing up that was very influential for me. I remember very vividly seeing cassettes and CDs in long boxes on the shelf at Kmart and stores like that. And this very iconic artwork, which isn't really represented identically here, but you get the idea. It had his picture and then had the name. It was very iconic. And I got this on cassette tape. I still have a copy on cassette tape. And I wore the thing out. I wore it out. I had to buy a replacement because I literally wore it out. So this is, a snapshot of that period in my life. It was a very influential album for me. There was a thing going around on Facebook recently about, top 10 most influential albums in your life. And this was one. So I know I've seen this picture disc floating around for a couple of years. And I, had the opportunity and I went for it because, again, this is, to me personally, this was a very influential album. So that is on the list for me. Got a couple more here. Now this one you may raise an eyebrow and be like, what? But this is, I don't know how to pronounce it. Bahia. This is Arthur Lyman. Now Arthur Lyman is another great ambient music, or was an amazing ambient music producer. He played the vibraphones, got his start. His super strict dad made him listen to big band music and said, you need to master this. And he did. He played along with Benny Goodman and his trio with Lionel Hampton on the vibes and really mastered that. But then what's really cool is he took it to his own, next level and came up with this sound that was very tropical, very exotic. Thank you for that word. Somebody mentioned that in the live the other night. Sorry, the bird is going crazy. I don't know why. And it's a great sound of just tropical island stuff. And what was really neat is they would record these albums in the Aluminum Dome, which is the Henry Kaiser. Yeah, Henry Kaiser Aluminum Dome in Hawaii. Not the biggest geodesic dome by any means. It's like 1/3 of, Epcot Spaceship Earth, but it's the same basic idea. And the acoustics in there were amazing. So there he is on the vibes right there. And they would record these there, and the sound is fantastic. I've also got the Taboo album on reel-to-reel, which is amazing. This no longer exists. They tore it down in 1999 to make room for another hotel or something like that. It's gone. And Kaiser is the same Kaiser as Kaiser Permanente. That is the same heritage there. Also cool, as they mentioned, from a technical standpoint, that they did record on 1/2-inch tape with an Ampex 3-track tape machine specifically designed for this purpose. So anytime you see Arthur Lyman and you just want some chill background music, go for it. That is an absolute win. There's one more. Almost forgot about this. Got a George Burns record. This is cool. George Burns, obviously, this is a very historic Hollywood figure. Lived to be nearly 100 years old and chain smoked the whole way there. I have no idea what's on this record. I was looking at the back, and it's interesting that some of these are marked BMI and ASCAP. I'm not sure if those are stand-up routines or not. I don't know if this is music. I am not sure. I think these are songs. I'll have to find out, but you couldn't pass this up. I think it was another dollar record. Again, something that I was willing to take the gamble for, that investment, no problem. But check out this beautiful record label. Isn't that a cool record label? I think that was really, really neat. Hey, did you know we've got a brand new mascot on this channel? We do. Want to meet him? So, ever wonder what that beeping is in the background? That would be this guy right here. This is Yoshi, who has recently been named the official mascot of Record-ology. If you remember Spinny that nobody liked, he's being retired. Okay? It's kind of like Jeeves from Ask Jeeves. Remember when AskJeeves.com actually had a Jeeves? I miss Jeeves. And I miss Spinny too, but nobody likes Spinny. So Yoshi, the bird, is now the new mascot of Record-ology. He, peppers in his commentary throughout a lot of the production here, annoying me and oftentimes others as well. But he's sort of the assistant director of the show. So if you want to jump into the fray of Yoshi and how awesome and cool he is, he's an old bird, by the way. He's a green cheek conure. He's a good guy. You can buy some official Yoshi merchandise. That's right. We have a coffee cup with Yoshi the bird that says, Yoshi is my spirit animal. So you can buy that. Check out the merch shelf down below, our merchandise tab. And if you like new designs and new branding, there is a whole host of cool things coming your way. So stay tuned for all of that. It's recently been updated. We hired some designers to put together some professional logos and designs that we will be using in the near future. Now, like a lot of people, when we all went into lockdown, I moved out of an office and into a home office where I've been working ever since. Now, for me, that's great. I know a lot of people don't like working from home, but I love it. So it's been a great opportunity for me to have flexibility, to be able to work around the clock, because that's what ends up happening. But also, I get a little bit of a benefit in that I'm able to listen to music while I work, probably a little more freely than somebody in a conventional office, because I've got record play, I got all that fun stuff within arm's reach. So as long as I'm not in a meeting, if I'm doing busy work, if I'm in Excel, I got a record spinning. So what vinyl record albums would I recommend for people in a similar situation, or just people that want sort of a quiet meditative sound backdrop, maybe to calm down after a day in the office, just calm, soothing background noise type things. I also like listening to music while I do things like paint or draw, sometimes even write. If there's no lyrics in the music, I can't have words and write words at the same time. My brain is a one-track mind in that regard. So what are my picks? And I want to get your picks at the end of this, but what are my picks for the best albums to do that with? All right, so the first album that I personally have discovered is a great backdrop for working from home, studying, etc., is the soundtrack to the first Star Trek movie, Star Trek the Motion Picture from 1979. Among Star Trek fans, Trekkies, Trekkers, etc., this is contested as being either a really good movie, a really bad movie. I love it, and the music it's crazy. It's very 1979 space movie music. Little fun fact, if you aren't a Trekkie, this was actually originally designed to be a secondary series, like a comeback series to the original Star Trek series. But because Star Wars, a film, had been so successful in 1977, they decided to make it into a film and compete in that space instead. This is kind of a hard record to find, but if you can find it, grab it. Any of the Star Trek film scores, the original, 5 episodes, the original Star Trek film scores are fantastic. Next is an album that is one of the few, I think it's the only one with, words that you are going to see on this list for me. It is very peaceful, very calm, very contemplative. It's a soft, warm sounding album, whether you get the original or this remaster they did a couple of years ago. This is really fun. We got to partner with Capitol and UMG on this. But the Only the Lonely soundtrack by Frank Sinatra, the Only the Lonely album, often considered to be the first concept album of all time, not just a random collection of songs. Frank Sinatra, Nelson Riddle, Columbia, using a 3-track recording. I think this stereo mix was brand new for this re-release. But even the original, by the way, there's some peek at some other Sinatra albums. Even the original is going to sound fantastic. If I'm doing something that requires, typing words, then this is probably not my first go-to, unless I can really kind of put it in the background of my mind, because there are vocals, obviously. But if you're doing something like drawing, if you're, like creating a PowerPoint maybe, this might be a good choice. Next up, we talked about it earlier, is this fantastic One Stormy Night album, the one that started it all, Mystic Moods Orchestra. And it was an interesting concept because not only did they record the nature sounds, which was the first thing that they did. That was the first thing. They used I don't know what it was. I actually do know what it was. It was an Ampex, I believe, reel-to-reel tape recorder. It kind of looked like an old Roberts tape recorder, but they recorded a 1960s rainstorm in Los Angeles and had this idea that they could they could formulate an album with music that was based off the rhythm, intensity, and patterns of the storm sounds they had recorded. This is probably, if I had to pick a number one, these are not in order, by the way. If I had to pick a number one on this list, it would probably be this, because it is absolutely ambient. It is non-distracting. This is also something very good to fall asleep by. Very, very good to fall asleep by. So I would recommend that. Now, I had mentioned earlier also about the Philips. You want to get the Philips version. Here is the Warner Brothers version. You can see at the top there. If you can only find this, then get it. It still sounds great. But if you listen to them back to back, The Philips issues does sound a little cleaner, a little crisper. And if you become a One Stormy Night fan, as I did, and you want more of this Mystic Moods music, there is a plethora of records out there. And I find them all the time in secondhand stores. They're out there. I found them in thrift stores. In fact, I think I found 3 different copies of One Stormy Night, including this Warner Brothers issue, at a thrift store. Next up is this amazing album. Now, I had seen this, for years and years and years, and just thought of it as a knockoff, off-brand Star Trek or Star Wars trilogy soundtrack album. Yeah, maybe composed by John Williams, but it's conducted by George Korngold of the Utah Symphony Orchestra. And I just played it off as I don't want to knock off. I'd rather have the original. Well, I was mistaken, because it turns out that this was the first time that the music, John Williams scores from the original trilogy, episodes 4, 5, and 6, Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars, in reverse order there, were put into an album with just highlights from all 3 movies. On one album of all 3 movies, sort of just highlights put together. And that's an amazing thing, because these scores have been released previously as individual albums, but to have the best of the best put together on one record is fantastic. And the recording was done in a very, very good way. It is a digital recording. And look on the back here. If you read about this, this is a modern release. It's got some rebranding on it. But John Williams has a little letter in here where he talks about how pleased he was that this was going to be made, fully endorsed. And in terms of the sound, you could tell me those were the actual scores from the movie and I would believe it. Plus, this record, you can get this thing for like $18 brand new. I got this at a different Barnes & Noble on a different day for like $18. It was a no-brainer. And it's great background music to work by. And out of left field, we have this album right here. Jerry Mulligan meets Stan Getz on Verve Records. This is a stereo record. Jazz music, just, modern contemporary jazz. It's great. It's not so in your face that it jerks your attention away from what you're doing. It's calm. It's in the background. It has people wearing sunglasses inside, so it's cool. And it's just great music. So I would definitely recommend this. So to recap, we've got this guy right here. We got some Star Wars. We got One Stormy Night. Either version will work. We've got Only the Lonely and some Star Trek as well. Yes, I'm a geek. I'm very much a geek. That is undisputed. So tell me, give me a list of 1 or 2 or 10 of your favorite albums, record albums to work by. Things that you like having in the background while you're creating, while you're working, while you're meditating, relaxing, etc., etc. So this is completely an unplanned segment. I was not planning on doing this, but sometimes on my lunch break, I like to swing over to a local secondhand store, thrift store, something like that. And you never know what you're going to find, right? Well, today I came across this. This is a retro entertainment system. This is essentially an NES we'll call it a third-party produced console to play your vintage NES games. Bought this for $6, $5.99 plus tax. And I wasn't in the market for a game console, but it's something that I thought would be fun to look at together. Hopefully it works. I did save my receipt. I've learned that lesson before. Save your receipt, guys. When they test it, quote unquote, all they're doing is plugging it in and seeing that a light comes on or something. So what does it works mean to these guys? Hard to say. Sometimes you'll be incredibly lucky, and sometimes, as has happened to us before, you will not be so lucky. So, yeah, it's literally just it accepts NES cartridges right there. It's very lightweight, feels very cheap. I think they still sell these new for like $45. They started selling these in like 2009. And yeah, power button, reset button. It does not have built-in games, which is a bummer. Looks like this one was June 10th of 2015. So not the very early production run. And then on the back, we've got a composite video and an analog output. And it came with a couple of controllers as well. They do make some systems, a lot of systems, that they try to look like an old NES system. How many times can I say system? But this one does not. It's just, and I don't care. That's fine. If it was looking like an NES, that would be cool, but it doesn't. So what are we going to do that we bought something like this? Clorox the heck out of it, including unspooling all those cables and making sure that we get all the grime off of that. Because if you've had kids, not saying this was owned by kids, but it's probable that it came into contact with somebody that didn't wash their hands, lived in their parents' basement for too long or something. I don't know. But we need to make sure that this thing is disinfected, and I'm going to give it the thorough clean down. And then I'm going to take my one NES game that I own, which is this. And yes, it was a gift, but I'm going to take my one NES game and we're going to hook it up and see if it works. Not do a full review of the game or even the system, but I just want to see if this thing works. And if it does, and the system works and everything, I don't know, maybe I'll pick these up if I see them. NES was the very first game system I had as a kid. It was a big, big deal when Santa Claus brought this to my brother and I. And he is now like one of these ultimate gaming. He could have a gaming channel, like a retro gaming channel. He's got every game from every system, including all of the games we had for the NES. That's why I don't have any. But yeah, maybe I'll pick up a multi-cart or something like that eventually, because I've got a lot of nostalgic memories wrapped around an NES and some of the games. So I'm going to clean it up and then let's plug it in, see if it works. So the first thing we're greeted with is kind of a buzz in the audio. I don't know how loud this is going to be, but let's find out. Yeah, it works. This is cool. I have no idea how to play this game. Okay, yeah, I'm good at this. Man, that sound though, that buzz is annoying. I'll just turn this down. Dies again. Okay, apparently that... The controller seems to work. Console seems to work. It's outputting a bright, colorful signal. Okay, what if I go up? Okay, it kills me from all sides. So, Bluetooth is not... I'm assuming that's Bluetooth. It's not very friendly with me, but there you go, guys. It works, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. Oh, man, this is nostalgic. I don't even have this game, but this is just the sounds of 8-bit games. 1982 Nintendo. I love it, you guys. Do you guys have stuff like this? I've also got a modern retro Sega system with built-in games, and that is pretty cool as well. It's just a demo. I think that's just a demo. All right, guys. Hope you like that. All right, my friends, and that is going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this show. It's hump day. We're halfway through the week, you guys. We can do this. We got this. The end is in sight. So if you wouldn't mind, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Check us out on TikTok. Check out the Vinyl Nation. We've got great new merch that's coming your way. We hinted at that and talked about that recently. So if you look at the merch shelf down below, you're going to start to see some things populate. They're sort of propagating slowly. So you may not see everything at first, but we got all new logos. So if you didn't buy sort of the Gen 1 Record-ology merch, it's too late for that. That's gone forever, unless we bring it back. But it's gone forever for right now, so check out the new merch. But mostly, I just want to say thank you for being here and spending time with me. I appreciate that so very much. That's going to do it for today, guys. Happy record hunting, and we'll see you next time.